Jurassic Park, a short story by Eugene Harvey. A piercing scream broke the stillness. Maria lay in her bed, clutching her knees in the fetal position. Her mind drummed a million beats per second, but she dared not make a sound. She cursed her father, Felipe Espinoza, for trapping her in this mess. She didn't know much of the details, but she did know for certain that Louis Dodson is a bad man. Felipe would be on the phone with Louis for hours at a time, talking of some park opening off the coast of Costa Rica. Felipe was so secret about this trip that her mother thought he was having an affair. The talks with Louis went on for years, until it all came down to this hot summer weekend in 1990. Maria is a simple Latino-American teenage girl with simple friends, living a simple life in Carmel Valley, just outside of San Diego. Her light brown skin shimmered in the sunlight, highlighting her freckles on her face. Her soft brown eyes rest under her eyelids, with her puffed lips sipping on an iced tea. She lay on the pool deck, sunbathing next to her father's girlfriend, Marissa, in an effort to bond. Maria took the divorce really hard as a young 14-year-old adolescent. But now 3 years have passed, and her father finally decided to give love a chance yet again. Marissa really isn't so bad, but Maria doesn't want to let her know that. Marissa is the entire package. She makes the best quesadilla, drives a 1976 Corvette, and even allows Maria to sip a little tequila when Felipe isn't looking. Marissa teaches English class to 8th graders at an all-Spanish-speaking middle school. She is slim, with a light brown skin complexion to match her piercing brown eyes. She is a Latino Demi Moore, with long black hair and a perfectly chiseled face. Marissa has been around for 3 months and has finally been asked to move in, but Maria doesn't know this yet. Finally, Marissa broke the stillness. "Yo, chica, I have something to confess." Maria's eyebrows raised from underneath her sunglasses, insinuating to continue. I don't know how to put this, but Felipe, he asked me to move in." Maria's heart fluttered. Inside, she was thrilled, yet on the outside, her face looked grim. "Look," Marissa continued on, "I know this is all of a sudden, but I feel that you and I are really starting to connect." Maria stared forward in silence. "And Felipe has finally come to terms with the, divorce and..." Marissa was abruptly interrupted. "Yeah, I get it," Maria barked. They sat in silence. "I'm sorry, chica. I'm happy for you and Dad. It's just a lot to take in at the moment." Marissa nodded with delight and sat back in her chair. The stillness was pleasant, until Felipe barged in with a piercing shout. "We need to pack now," Felipe said with encouragement. His black mustache quivered in front of a smile. He had his hair slicked back in a Hawaiian-themed button-up. "We're going to Costa Rica!" Marissa jumped up with glee, being the spontaneous person she is, but Maria knew what this was about, and she was not pleased. They were soon packed up, and on a private plane embroidered with Biozin in big blue lettering on the side of the aircraft. Maria sat in silence, thinking to herself, "This is all because of that damned Louis Dodson. That slimy, bald-headed prick ruined her family." Maria enjoys Marissa's company, but there is no love like her mother's love. Judy was one of the best moms she could ever ask for, until she assumed Felipe was having an affair. That is when Judy's life derailed, and she drank herself into existence. Judy could be dead for all Maria knows, and she does her best not to think about it. But one thing she can't stop thinking about is how much she hates Dodson, and she can't wait to meet that jackass. Maria contemplated several ways of approaching Mr. Dodson on the plane ride down. Dr. Douchebag had a nice ring to it, or perhaps Sir Asshat would be more appropriate. Either way, she knew he was a greasy prick that needed to be put in his place. He was always calling her father late at night, talking about some sort of DNA testing. She has no clue of what it could be, but she assumed they're trying to replicate human DNA for robots. Her father doesn't permit it, but Maria enjoys her late-night 80s sci-fi movies, which allows her imagination to run wild. The plane had landed at a base in San Jose, Costa Rica. This was her moment. She was finally going to meet Sir Asshat himself, Louis Dodson. As she walked off the plane, the wet, humid air slapped her in the face, and it took her a couple seconds to catch her breath. Her caramel brown eyes adjusted to the bright sunlight and brought her disappointment. There was nobody there but two men in black suits with a limousine, holding the doors open for the Espinosas and Marissa. "Señor Espinosa, tu paseo te espera," the men said. Maria looked puzzled, not understanding common Spanish, something she has truly never spoken. She felt ashamed of herself as she got in the car. Watching her father slip the two men $20 bills each, Maria sat in the limo in stillness, listening to Marissa and Felipe gab about their awesome new vacation. Her father boasted about ziplining, mountain climbing, and swimming with sharks. Marissa's naive face glowed with excitement. Maria knew all too well that's not what they are here for. The Mini family arrived at their condo, placed nearby a port. As they got out of the car, they could hear thunder roll in the distance. They settled in at their condo and were preparing for dinner. Maria was beginning to think this trip was actually a spontaneous adventure. There had been no word from the greasy bastard Dodson. Then, like clockwork, the hotel phone rang. Felipe called out, "I'll get it," as he strides towards the phone. "Yes, Felipe! I can't get a hold of Nedry. I knew that fat bastard would screw things up. I told you we couldn't trust him." Felipe looked around at Marissa and Maria's puzzled faces. A sense of shame came over him. "Luckily, I have a boat with a sedated animal on board. I'm gonna need you to be at the dock in 1 hour. No exceptions." The phone clicked without a goodbye. Maria's stomach began to turn. In the background, Marissa and Felipe began to argue over what the call was about. Maria couldn't bother herself about that now. It would bring back too many bad memories about Jude and Felipe. She thrusted herself into her room, locking the door behind her. She flopped onto the bed, bending herself into the fetal position. That asshat was at it again. How could she let Louis do this to her twice? She heard Marissa shout, soon followed by the slamming of a door. She could hear her father sigh. 15 minutes had passed, and there was soon the inevitable knock at her door. It was her father. "Sweetie, I know you're mad at me, but I need you to know this vacation is going to make Daddy a lot of money. I have to do one last thing for my boss." Maria began to tune him out. "Why don't you just say his God-forbidden name?" Maria thought to herself. "I know who that smelly pig is," she continued. "Just say it!" "'Kay? Say what, my princess?" Maria hadn't noticed that she shouted the last thought in her head out loud. "Look, like I told Marissa, it's just one little job from my boss, and I'll be back to skydive, scuba dive." She tuned him out again. She couldn't bear to listen to his lies, the corny, stupid lies, the same lies that left her without a mother, the same lies that drove her into depression, the same lies that defended Louis Dodson, the biggest scumbag on this earth. Maria's thoughts drummed on, until she eventually fell asleep in the fetal position. She awoke to heavy rain thundering on the rooftop, with men shouting in the distance. She could smell coffee beans, meaning that Marissa must have returned home. Despite the heavy rain, everything seemed peaceful. It was a calming ambience, resting her back into a stillness. The fetal position left her comfort. It is something Maria developed during the divorce process. A piercing scream broke the stillness. Maria lay in her bed, clutching her knees in the fetal position. Her mind drummed a million beats per second, but she dared not make a sound. It was a piercing scream that she had never heard before, like some sort of exotic animal. Another scream followed, this one much closer to their condo. More shouts from men followed the screams, trailed by gunshots. She could hear a familiar voice far off in the distance. "Don't fucking shoot them, you dipshits!" shouted from a megaphone, over the roar of a helicopter. It was Dodson. She clutched her knees harder. He was right outside her window in a helicopter. This was her moment to confront him, but a piercing crash in the living room made her freeze. She could hear Marissa scream in horror, combated by a piercing scream from the exotic animal. "What the hell is this?" she thought. Then it happened. A blood-curdling scream came from the living room. It was Marissa. She could hear the animal snarling over Marissa's pleas for help. Maria continued to stay silent. A tear began to trickle down her freckled-ridden cheek. The piercing scream came again. This time it was almost deafening. She heard the animal land just outside her door with a shadow blocking the light from the living room. A drop of blood splattered on the floor. Marissa. Soon, There was heavy snorting. The animal was crouched down, revealing a snout in the crack between the door and the floor. It could smell her. A chill raced down her spine. I'm next, she thought to herself, but a glimmer of hope raced back to her mind. She had locked the door. Thank God she locked the door. The animal was trying to gently nudge the door open, but it had failed. Suddenly there was a thump at the door as the animal attempted to headbutt the door open. She stayed completely still and could hear the animal snort in frustration. There was a low growl as she could hear the animal walk away from the door. It sounded as if the animal was wearing high heels. She let out a sigh of relief. She began to adjust herself in the bed. Maria contemplated making a break for it, but feared joining Marissa's bloody fate. Then she heard the clicking noise again, but at a much faster pace. The door crashed open as the animal skidded across the floor. Maria sat at the edge of the bed in shock, daring not to move a muscle. She saw the exotic animal highlighted by the living room lights of the condo. The animal was scaly, like a lizard, with 2 cosmic hind legs. She followed the legs to the feet, where she saw 3 tiny claws capped off with 1 giant razor-sharp claw per foot. The tail flicked across the floor, scattering shrapnel from the broken door. The muscular hind legs pushed the animal to its feet, presenting 2 medium-sized arms with 3 iron claws per hand. Then there was the head, the animal standing about 4 feet tall. It tilted its head, revealing one of the eyes to look at her, much like a bird. The black soulless eye made contact with her soft, silky brown eyes. She quickly glanced away toward the living room, trying not to look at the animal. This caused Maria to notice Marissa's half-eaten leg in a pool of blood. Her stomach flipped. The animal grunted, which brought her attention back to the beast. This is when she noticed the long snout, partially open, staging rows of blood-soaked, razor-sharp teeth. It all made sense to her now. Her father was using DNA to bring this prehistoric dead back to life. The sharp claws, long tail, piercing screams, and scaly skin. She was looking at a velociraptor. A velociraptor. Holy shit, she mumbled under her breath. Maria took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and wished for it all to be over soon.